Ah, there we go.
Now we'll go to the countdown. We'll come back. Hey, welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve. I'm Steve Harper, and with me is my awesome co-host, Dr. Asha Prasad. Dr. Asha, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Steve?
Good. Thanks for saying, hey, are we live? Because we apparently weren't before.
It was just, I don't know why. I was just like, I usually see that little, timer. And
The
I thought,
timer and it says live.
yeah,
Like,
that was kind
whoa,
of a hint.
Steve, click the big red button that says go live. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, it's not entirely my fault. StreamYard pushed out
No,
some new updates and I'm kind of finding my way through their new interface.
exactly.
So I blame them. So there
Yeah,
we go.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, we're live streaming for the first time since our last episode, which
Hmm.
was the gratitude episode we did right before Thanksgiving, and
Yes.
got some really good feedback. People really seem to enjoy that. And apparently, we are having problems with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn
Okay.
is right now telling me that we have an issue. So we may or may not may or may not be on LinkedIn at this point. I don't
Oh,
know. So,
okay.
but we are on Facebook and we are on YouTube and we're on Periscope or Twitter. So
Yeah.
I
Great.
don't know. The LinkedIn gremlins are just acting up today, I guess. So
They
we
don't
may
like
have
us,
to remember to
though.
go back and repost this and say
Yeah.
sorry. So
Yes.
it's okay because actually the graphic I put out on LinkedIn yesterday said, "Hey, join us tomorrow, Friday, December 2nd, which today is December 3rd." So
Yeah. Well,
I wasn't totally at fault there. We were flipping back and forth on our times, and we
yes,
knew I should have done the date correctly, but I had the time, and I had to like delete it and put it back on.
I
And
know.
this is
That
what
was all
happens when
me.
you get an inexperienced person doing our stuff. We need to make this show so big that people come on and we're like, all right, let's support so we can get a real producer and get Steve
Exactly.
out of the back office.
No.
I'm thinking it might be important. So today we're actually talking about we've been asking at the end of at the end of every episode
Mhm.
for listeners to give us ideas and thoughts about questions or topics that they want us to cover, right?
Mhm.
So we've
Yeah.
got a couple today, and so in no
Great.
particular order, three specific ones, and then I actually had another one that came, excuse me, came in today.
Mhm.
But let's just see if we can, let's just jump in if you're okay with that,
Okay.
Asha.
Sounds good.
So one of these came from a listener who said they didn't really want to be called out online, which is
Okay.
fine. But how do I show my value within my company without coming across as tooting my own horn? It's a
Mm.
great question. And I know why you don't want to be identified because your boss is probably watching and would be like, hey, Marcia, which is not the name of the person that said it, but Marcia is really underappreciated by our boss who apparently is a jerk. No, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding.
No.
But that's a good question. How do I show
Yeah.
my value within my company without coming across as I'm tooting my own horn? So what do you think about
Mm.
that?
I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind, Steve, is that first of all, as a boss or a leader or a manager, one of your tasks should be really to see hidden talents in your people.
Yeah.
Observing, getting to know them, getting to see what their strengths are, and challenging them in different ways to see kind of where their strong suit is. I think that I think helping out, like making suggestions or maybe talking to your boss and just from a, um, I guess, non-threatening way,
Hmm.
making suggestions or just saying, hey, I've got a little bit of experience with this. Maybe I could help out, or can I have an opportunity? Doing it in that kind of way, I
Yeah.
think would really be helpful to kind of do it. So that way you're not, because one of the things I know, and I've seen this, Stephen, you probably have seen this too, at a staff meeting there's that one person that wants to say that they can do like literally everything. And everybody is rolling their eyes at the table going, oh, him again or her again, that kind of thing. And that's very off putting.
Yeah.
So I think that if you approach it from that way to where you're talking one on one with your boss and say, listen, I want to expand kind of, what my skill set is,
Yeah.
or my skill set is wider than what you think. I think that that's one way that you can do it.
No, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I mean, one thing that I think that I've guided people to think about is, there is that fear that you are self-promoting, or you're trying to point
Yeah.
out like, hey, I've got this great skill set that you're not recognizing or seeing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've always encouraged my coaching clients, if they really want to differentiate themselves and actually, have a good one-on-one conversation with their boss or the
Hmm.
powers to be, is, hey, I don't know if you know this, but I have this experience, or I've spent some
Yeah.
time on my own learning this skill set or this capability. And here are a couple ways I think I could apply it. Similar to
Right.
what you're saying, right? Is that like, hey, look,
Yeah.
I'm just identifying myself as a potential contributor here.
Yeah.
But I think that element really helps people sort of at least explain or share a skill that they have, or a capability that
Hmm.
maybe that wasn't evidenced in their resume, or maybe their
Right.
work environment hasn't actually given them the opportunity to actually showcase that. I think that's one way. The other aspect that I would say in that regard is, without tooting your own horn, but essentially coming into your boss, or to that team, and saying, hey, look, there are other areas I think I can be contributing, and I think I can
Right.
do that within the confines of my day-to-day work. And here's a few
Right.
examples that I see that I could bring some value to the table. And I think that if you do it in more of a collaborative approach, as
Exactly.
opposed to, hey, well, you guys aren't paying attention, didn't see, or maybe you didn't pay attention to my resume, but I have this skill, and I have seen that person. You're right. That
Yeah.
person in the staff meeting is like, well, if you had paid attention to my resume, you would have seen that I am really proficient at Photoshop, Steve, and you would not have made an error on the date that you put out publicly and made Dr. Asha very embarrassed. Yeah, that tends to be off-putting. So, I'm not even saying that happened in my company
No.
yesterday with somebody pointing that out to me, but it could
Could have been. No.
have.
No.
That person is no
No.
longer with us, but yeah, we won't talk about that. No, just kidding. I mean, at the end of the day, I do think that there is a fine line, because you don't want to come across as being too self-promoting, but you also want to
Yes.
come across as a way that, look, I've got something else to contribute in addition to what I'm doing.
Absolutely. But one thing I will say about this, I want to add something about this, Steve, because sometimes this does happen with leaders or managers. They can feel threatened themselves if
Yep,
you know something that they don't. I have been in that situation before, and I have
sure.
seen that play out. And you really do want to approach it in a very collaborative way and hope that that is received in that way. So,
Yep, absolutely.
yeah,
And if
great
if you're
question.
if you're just joining us, the question that was posed by a listener that we are not going to name because their boss might pay attention to the show, was, how do I show my value within my company without coming across as tooting my own horn? So we were just talking about the potential to, you know, self-identify without being too self-promoting, and being too much of a kind of a know-it-all, right? And
Hmm.
and or being just that annoying person that nobody really wants to. Oh, okay, sure, Asha, you do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Hey, so Christina just gave us a comment, but when leaders take advantage of extra skills, dot
Mm.
dot dot.
Yes, I agree, Christina. That can happen. That can happen in a big
You just
way.
set yourself up to get the extra skills out there. What do you want from us leaders, Christina? Come on. Is that where the dot dot dot? It's like dun dun dun.
Yes.
Now I got more work. Thank you, boss. I really, truly, truly appreciate it. It's like, well, yes, of course. You just asked for more work. What do you want? First you want it, then you don't want it. I don't get it. I don't understand. What are we supposed to do?
Oh my
But
goodness.
that is a possible risk, right? At the end of the
Yeah, that
day,
is.
I have actually had coaching clients that have actually really they've taken on other areas of responsibility with the business. And
Mhm.
then when things do get a little too much, the thing that I think is really helpful, and I think you sort of alluded to this too, Asha, is you got to be very collaborative and communicative with
Yes.
your boss, and say, look, I'm happy to do this, and I'm happy to do it like for this
Yeah.
project or this short term, just to help out and contribute. But if this ends up going a direction that maybe takes more time, more focus, would we have the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation about
Yeah.
maybe the possibility of reassigning or shifting my responsibilities? What do you think
Exactly.
about that?
Yeah. I think that that's really good. I mean, communication, keeping that more skills result in more money. That's right. You
Cha-ching.
know?
This is why I need, see if we had somebody that had that skill set that could do sound effects, we would be
A
like,
little sound
Robert,
effect.
cha-ching.
Exactly.
I'd make it rain some dollars in here right now, but I don't have that skill set. So sorry, you were saying, but go ahead.
No, but it's true. It's one of those things that just keep it collaborative and keep the communication lines very open. I think that that would be the best way to do that.
Yep, absolutely. If
Yeah.
you happen to be watching, let us know what your thoughts are on this. Promoting yourself to do other, have other
Mhm.
job responsibilities or take on more. Are you setting yourself up for failure? Are you setting yourself up
Mm.
to be taken advantage of, like Christina sort of alluded to? And then when do you have that conversation about, hey, I'm doing this now,
Yeah.
and like Robert, he's like, hey, bring me the money,
Exactly.
show me the money.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. So, you gotta figure that out because that can be that's all part of it. And I do think that by having that open, honest communication with your manager or your boss, so that there is a kind of a definitive timeline and
Yeah.
an understanding of what that contribution is going to be. And that if there's the possibility this could expand into some other capabilities within your role, just being able to get that out there, or setting a
Yeah.
timeline to say, hey, how this is how long I could do it, and then could we come back and reevaluate day-to-day responsibilities, because there may be some things that are better to shift off my plate to somebody else, right?
Yeah. That's true. That is true.
And you started at the very beginning as people were coming in is
Mhm.
being a more alert leader and having that
Yeah.
that visibility within your folks to say, hey, you know what skill sets am I not taking advantage of, and that sounds the wrong way really, but at the end of the day, what are they capable of that maybe we're not quite leveraging, right? The skill sets, that expertise.
Exactly. I mean, because here's the thing, I like to look at it as when you see people are passionate about certain things, you just see them light up, you see them really get the things done. And that's kind of like you want to highlight that. You want your employees to enjoy their work, right, Steve? Yes.
Yes.
I'm just making sure he's paying attention to me. That's all. He tends to tune me out sometimes.
What? Oh, that is so true.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I never tune you out. No, but you're absolutely right. You got to pay attention to those things, and
Yeah.
that comes down to good leadership, right? Being able
Yes,
to
it
be
does.
visible and in front of your people and having a good conversation with them from time to time, getting out from behind that desk, having that conversation so that you can
Yeah.
say, hey, look, what are some other capabilities that that you have that you would like to leverage? What expertise that maybe I didn't identify
Right.
or see? And that can be difficult because you and I both have trained and worked with major companies, and you sometimes feel like you are kind of lost in the numbers, right? And
Yes,
you may
that's
have
true.
like your team, and you may have that direct manager that you report to, but sometimes those conversations, unless you sort of help them along, either as the leader or as the employee, they just never
Mhm.
happen, right?
Yeah, that is
Everybody
true,
just shows up to do their TPS reports, and that's the end of it.
and that's about it.
That's right.
Exactly.
Where's my red stapler? Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
So here's another question. This one I think was from Chip, because I just wrote this on, but I'm going by memory. So I
Mhm.
apologize, Chip, if you were on and it wasn't your question. My bad. So how do I remain relevant to clients and build a relationship without making them feel like I'm always trying to sell them something?
Yeah,
Ooh, I like that.
that's a really good one. I mean, you know what? This is all you know what, Steve? I'm gonna put that question to you because to me, this is all about that connection, connection points, and ripple. So I'm gonna let you
Well,
talk about this.
yeah, actually, I will come back to that. But Uma actually just threw in a
Yeah.
comment on our last question. And so before we move on to
Mhm.
this, I'll reread that question here in a second. But I think this is actually more applicable for
Yeah.
that first question, which was, how do I show my value with my company without coming across as tooting my own
Mhm.
horn? So, Asha, do you want to read this? And then,
Let's see.
I'll let you
Everyone is
tackle
not
this.
billable, but without the back end support, it is difficult for the company to move on. How do you answer to people who say you are not billable?
Like, you're not part of the
Mm,
revenue producing,
exactly.
aspect. It's a good question.
That's a really good question. I mean, you know what? That's a really good question. I think that again, it's about of course, you've got these parameters that whatever your position is, I think that there's always flexibility in being able to talk about certain skill sets that you are exercising in your position to be able to make those worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like really
Mhm.
being able to because yes, it may not be part of the actual end revenue, but there could be something by adding those skill sets to your position. I think that's always negotiable for
Yeah,
that.
I agree. I
That's
actually,
a good
and
question.
I would probably disagree with the statement that everyone is not billable because everyone is. If you've got a
Everyone
good
is.
leadership team, good management team, your
Yep.
cost to that company to execute on whatever product or service that you have is already built in. And so if you have somebody
Yes.
who's, sort of kind of putting you down as you're not part of the revenue producing engine,
Mhm.
I actually think it's an opportunity to have a reset conversation with that person. And that if
Yeah,
that's your manager, that could be a problem, but
I know.
necessary. If it's a colleague or a coworker, I think it's really important. Like, no, we all actually are
Yes.
technically part of the revenue stream
Mhm.
here. Let me show you why. This is the activities, these are the functions that we do. And if we weren't doing those, we would really be in some trouble because
Yep.
they wouldn't get done, right? Yes, like the sales team and the business development team, they get all of the glory, but at the end of the day, we're all very, very we're all a big part of the
Yeah.
deliverable for the client. And so, yeah, we may not necessarily have a line item in the proposal that says we're part of the consulting services or
Mhm.
the professional delivery, but we are all part of that price that got put forward for the client. And
Yeah. That's
everybody
true.
has a role to play. Everybody is just as equally as important. There are some roles that are maybe more, more customer facing or more front in the
Exactly.
limelight. But anybody that I think that would put you down for what you're doing, I think
Mhm.
is, that's unfortunate. And I think that they're short sighted and clearly, probably not great leaders.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's true. That's very, very true, Steve. I mean, you know what? I think a lot of times in companies, the sales team gets, like you said, all the glory and they get all the attention of they're the ones out there making it happen. They're sealing the deals, which
Yeah.
is true. However, if that back end support is not there, strong, just as strong,
Yeah.
then they can go out and sell anything that they want to. Eventually, that's going to catch up. You know what I mean? Eventually, they're not going to be able to fulfill whatever it is, and that's going to show. So,
Yeah, I would, if you looked at your clinic practice as an example, right?
mhm,
You're the rock star doctor. You're
mhm,
treating the patient. You're doing those things, but there are so many people behind the scenes
yeah,
that, everything from taking, that patient's first call to say I need to come for a visit all the way
exactly.
to how the billing gets done, how that patient visit is,
Yep,
scheduled and ultimately followed up. There are these elements there, and those are just as important as
mhm,
the activities you're doing in terms of
exactly.
performing the surface. And I know you're really good at recognizing that and investing in your people
Mhm,
and making sure that those people understand how critical they are to the process. And so I think for Uma, one of the things that I would say is that opens up a door of a great conversation to say, look,
mhm,
I think we all need to kind of have a reset here in terms of our deliverable, whatever that might be.
right,
And I don't know what kind of industry or business that you might be in, but it definitely sounds like there may be a disconnect from leadership. And maybe it's an opportunity for us to say, hey, can we all look at this? Because it's so
exactly.
critical and important that we all feel like we're a part of that and that team and that team deliverable. So that's just my thought. Let me go back to this question really quickly on the second question that got asked, not by Chip. So he's on my IM, so he just said it wasn't me. So I must have misread who it was. But how do I remain relevant to clients and build a relationship without making them feel like I'm always trying to sell them something? And
Yeah,
Asha put that on to me because that was kind of the ripple, right? It's the kind of
right.
the approach that we take. I think that if you're an excellent provider of product or service, you're never having to sell anything. What you're
Right.
trying to do a lot of times is you're trying to potentially foresee and solve problems before maybe a client knows they have them.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, I think if you've taken the time to invest in building the relationship and you're upfront and honest with that individual client to say, look, hey, I might call on you 4 times a year. I'm not expecting you to buy anything, right? I want to
Right.
check in. I want to build this relationship. I want to strengthen it. I do, of course, want to continue to service you and work with you and have that professional relationship where you feel comfortable buying from me in the future for everything. But the flip side of that is I really want to be more and present more value to you than
Mhm.
just that. And I think at the end of the day, I think that whether that's, almost any business out there, I think you could have that strategy. And I find that if you're honest with your clients about what your end game is like, hey, look, I'm not all about selling you whatever this is. I'm all
Exactly.
about trying to figure out how I can add value to your business life or your personal life in some
Right.
capacity. I know for a fact I sold a company, many many years ago, but we built our company off of that mindset, which was, for our product and service, whether you're doing business with us or not, I wanted to always be a resource for you.
Mhm.
And I wanted people to feel like they could call me and say, "Hey, look, we're thinking about this," or we need to hire, and I know you're tied into a lot of different people, or we've been thinking about implementing this product. What do you know about it?
Mhm.
I got so many times people would reach out to me and just have that conversation. And when they did, I really felt like, that was just so great, so rewarding because they
Yeah.
were putting that trust in you.
Yes.
And it's just so helpful. And I know you've experienced that yourself, right?
Absolutely. It's really funny because I still hear from patients from 20 years ago emailing me, asking me questions. Hey, Dr. Asha, I'm sorry to bother you. Don't know if you remember me. And, and they are asking me my opinion on something. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's from 20 years ago and many, many miles distance now that I can't see them in person. But I mean, it's about
Yeah.
building those relationships. And when you're upfront about that, people are going to feel that. People are going to feel also if you are trying to just sell them, they're going to feel
Yes.
it, what your intentions are. So make sure that you are clear with whatever your intentions are and build that relationship from the genuine place of building a relationship.
Yes, I
Yeah.
I I agree wholeheartedly, and I do think obviously the business relationship. This question got put forward as
Mhm.
clients, right? I want to remain
Yeah.
relevant to clients. So these are folks that you've already sold a product or service to,
Yeah.
but you have a commitment, and I love that because I don't think a lot of people that are in the
Yeah.
sales game or even in business building understand that the value of building relationships with those people aside from that
Mhm.
financial transaction or that
Exactly.
activity, that's the good stuff, right? When you can get there and clients feel like that you're more than just a vendor or a provider of whatever
Yes.
it is, but they feel like they have something a little bit more special than that. Number
Mhm.
one, if you take the time to build the relationship with those folks, not only are they less susceptible to leaving you for a better offer from a
Mhm.
competitor or to shop you to somewhere else, but they're just far more loyal, right? Because they
Yeah.
know that, yeah, you might have sold me XYZ, but at the end of the day, this guy's solid. He helped me,
Yeah.
with a something that I never expected to come out of that. And for me, I've tried to do that my entire life and in my career. And you
Mhm.
mentioned early on, Asha, the concept of that ripple of connection. I mean, I
Right.
believe that those actions that you take, they ripple out, but they also ripple back to you.
They
And
do.
they ripple out in ways that, you've got folks that you have a strong, solid, perhaps maybe business friendship with, but friends
Mhm.
nonetheless. And so I think that
Yeah.
thing is very important. And I think if you're worried about coming across as, oh, you only call because it's renewal time, or you're
Yeah.
calling because it's donation time, or you're only, yeah, well, guess what? They are going to think that because you haven't given them any other reason to think otherwise. You have
Exactly.
to
That's
find
true.
reasons to contribute and add value. And sometimes what I found with the folks that I work with is you're just not being upfront and honest with them about what you want. Tell them what the end game is,
Yeah.
right? This person is somebody I've enjoyed working with. We had a great, engagement during whatever, right? Product or service
Mhm.
acquisition. But at the end of the day, I walked away with like an appreciation for this person and just
Yeah.
calling it out, and saying, look, I really got so much enjoyment out of getting to know you and working with your
Mhm.
team. And you're just somebody I think I can learn from. You're someone that I'd like to get
Yeah.
to know better. And would you be open to that? I'm not trying to put any undue pressure on you, but I'm all about building relationships, not selling product and service.
Right.
And when you do that, I think it just differentiates you and sets you apart
It
from
does.
anybody.
It does, and also, you know what? Whenever you really listen to people, Steve, because that part of that communication is listening. Be very keen on your listening skills. Develop those if you haven't yet. Develop those because you will listen to little clues or interest of people that you can totally connect with them
Yeah.
on, and I think that that's super important. for building any
Absolutely.
relationship anyway. Yeah.
I agree. Well, so we're today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter because
Mhm.
Dr. Asha is in demand, and so she's like, "Hey, I've got a hard stop time, and you can stay on and keep talking, but don't be live because you won't have me to be there to bail you out." So we have a short window. So the last question that we're going to put out, and we're probably going to do another one of these at the beginning of the year, actually, I think, because
Yeah.
we had a couple of questions that have come in when people saw that posted that I'd like to get to, and we definitely won't. We'll make it a priority in early January when we come back for the new year to do another Q&A. But how do you know? This one's more for you. Tracy wanted to know, how do you know if you're truly following the path you're supposed to follow for your
Mhm.
life and career? How do you know if you're following that path?
I think that even asking that question may be telling you that you might not be because you know what I mean? I think asking that question is a great question, first of all. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Um, the way that I like to look at that is that what am I enjoying myself? First and foremost, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Do I feel driven? Do I feel inspired? Do I
Yeah.
feel energetic with what I'm doing? Do I just like can't wait to, get to work and do whatever I'm doing? I think that that's a good indicator of
Yeah.
what your life's purpose is. And if you're really in alignment with that, if you're asking yourself that question, I have found there's either two things. Either you don't feel really aligned with what you're doing because you just don't, you're not feeling it, or it's just kind of a check-in just to make sure that
Hmm.
you are, you know what I mean? Because I've had those moments before a lot lately. A lot lately. Let me just put that out there. About
Hey, you don't have it
okay,
all figured out. I mean, come
oh,
on.
never,
This is
never.
why I show up every week because I figured you had it figured out and I would be able to learn how to figure it out.
I haven't figured out from moment to moment. Let me put it that way.
All that
Sometimes
matters in the moment, right?
in the moment, exactly. So I think that those are big indicators for you to know. I mean, I think that sometimes we get afraid of, oh my gosh, I've missed my purpose or I've missed my calling.
Yeah.
I don't think that we really miss it unless we're just kind of we know what it is and then we're blind to it and we don't take the steps in order to get us there, then we could be missing it. But it's never too late to miss out. You know what I mean? You're not going to miss out.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. I think it's easy for people to second guess the decisions they make,
Yeah.
the path that they may be on. And I think that's why this question was
Yeah.
put forth is that, how do I know? Because maybe there's something else that I should be looking at.
Right.
I think when you ask that question, like you said, I think it's a really good question to be asking to check in to just
Yes.
see, is this the path that brings me the most joy? Is this the path that I'm the happiest with? I actually did a post
Exactly.
on LinkedIn today that was just like, hey, are we all just like, are you doing the kind of work that you get up every day and you feel like inspired
Mhm.
and you're excited and motivated to go forward? I know that you can't be that way 100% of the time, but
Right.
if you're not, yeah, I would say sub 85% of the time,
Mhm.
you're probably doing the wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
And
True.
at the end of the day, you could spend your life on the hamster wheel with everybody else, and the view never changes, and it's
Mhm.
never a good environment. And then you feel like you have, just wasted your time or wasted your talents. And
Exactly.
I think that a lot of people don't take the time to look deep enough to ask these questions. And I think that
Mhm.
this one being posed is, you know, you're really the best judge of that. Are you following the path that you are
Yeah.
supposed to follow? Do you have the kinds of relationships that support you personally and professionally? Are you living the kind of life that you want to be living? And is
Exactly.
the work that you have, is it fulfilling, and is it bringing you some level of joy, feeling like you're contributing, that
Yeah.
you're fully being able to leverage your skills and abilities? And if
Yeah.
not, well, that might be an indicator that it's time to do a course correction and maybe do
Yeah.
something a little differently. But, I
That's
think,
true.
I mean, it's kind of funny because somebody just posted a comment, but they took it off. I'm not sure why, but I
Okay.
saw the glimpse of it, which was, and it could be that I might have deleted it. Sorry, I don't know.
Uh-oh.
New interface. We're still messing with this, but anyway,
Right.
when you were saying, if you don't have it figured out, Dr. Asha, how will we all figure it out? And it's like,
Well, it's a work in progress.
it's,
I'm gonna
it's a,
tell you, it's a work in progress. I mean, actually, it's really funny because the reason why I said that I'm constantly questioning and asking these questions, it's funny because my recent book, The Chrysalis Awakening, is
yep.
all about that. How to find, 5 questions to find your purpose and passion in uncertain times. And uncertain times doesn't always have to be a pandemic. Uncertain times are Thank God. It does not always have to be a pandemic. But uncertain times mean these times in our life where we're just like really reevaluating, going, wait a minute, am I
Yeah.
doing what I want to be doing? Am I really, so it's kind of interesting because I've been creating a course that goes along with my book that's going to be available very, very, very soon. And it's funny because as I was creating this course and creating the content for it, this is where my question marks were kind of going on in my mind. And it's just like I realized that it is part of that process. And there will be many times in your life, and many times even within a year, that you could be questioning things. And it's okay to question things because whenever you start to go down that road of that discovery, you're going to learn new things about yourself, and you're going to learn more and more about what your passions and what your purpose really is in alignment with.
Yeah. Well,
So,
to your point, going through that, I know that that's been some eye-opening revelations to yourself, or as you've been going through
right.
that process in preparation for the launch of the book a few months ago, and then of course this course. But
Yeah.
for those of you that are out there, I highly recommend that you check out the website, thechrysalisawakeningbook.com, because Dr. Asha has put together some amazing content and videos up there to give you an idea of how these 5 questions kind of help you shape, asking that question. Are
Yeah.
you on that path where you want to go? And you also just, for, just putting it out there, your other website,
Mhm.
Dr. Asha Prasad, your main website, also has some great information. And that's where people would sign up for your
Yeah.
content for to be notified when that course is available, right?
Definitely. I would definitely encourage people to get on my mailing list because we've got some different programs coming up. I've been in creation mode here just really intensely for a while,
Yeah.
and so we've got some upcoming courses that are going to be releasing this month and also in the month of January. So definitely get on the mailing list so that way you can be kept up to date for those.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, uh, we definitely have enjoyed the opportunity to have this conversation, answer these
Mhm.
questions. We kind of partially kidding about this being a shorter episode, but Dr. Asha's got another commitment that she needs to be
Yeah.
on here shortly. But we definitely want you guys to contribute more questions, areas or topics that you might want us to cover in a future episode. The whole title of this, whether you're watching this live streaming, you're catching the rebroadcast on Facebook or YouTube, or catching it on any of the podcast platforms that we put this out on, is the conversations maybe between Dr. Asha and myself, but they're an opportunity to have conversations with you as well. And we're so
Exactly.
grateful for our listeners and for those of you that have contributed, and we appreciate everybody that submitted these questions today. Just to give us the opportunity to have these conversations and share and touch on some of these topics.
Exactly.
So,
No, I want to thank everybody. And I wanted to just say, Steve, Uma, that just
uh-huh.
asked a question today. She just recently had a birthday. So I just want to give her a
Oh,
happy birthday shout out, a belated birthday. So she's located over there in India. So yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Happy birthday, Uma. And actually, Dr. Asha just celebrated a birthday. She just turned 29.
yeah,
Uh,
again.
so uh, happy birthday
And
to you,
again and
Dr.
again. Thank
Asha.
you.
I was going to try and figure out how to get a virtual birthday cake to come in so you could blow out the candles, but didn't
We're
work out.
not allowed to do that anymore, right, Steve? Did you hear
Oh,
about that?
why? Who
Because of
said that?
COVID.
No, I say you do it because then you get more cake.
Yeah,
That's
I know, because then the whole cake is yours.
yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's
Yes, I guess I had heard that, but I better get some candles on my cake. That's all
I
I'm
know.
saying. So, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out Conversations with Asha and Steve on Facebook. Be sure to get signed up for our notifications on YouTube. Go to Dr. Asha Prasad, drashaprasad.com for more information on Dr. Asha's upcoming programs. Get on her mailing list. You can check out my work at ripplecentral.com. And we will be back again very soon with a live stream that we will just randomly pick a time and come back online just to keep you on your toes.
Surprise.
And we'll
Yes.
try and figure out why LinkedIn banned me today. I don't know. I don't know. It might have been because I started the show, then I stopped the show, and we didn't go live.
Maybe.
And there might have been an obscenity. I'm not sure,
That's okay.
but I could be in timeout with LinkedIn. I'm not sure. We shall see. But we will repost this on LinkedIn as well for those of you that were looking for it there and may have found us through the other channels. We apologize. We ran into the technical difficulty, and honestly, I didn't cuss. So,
Yeah.
I just think something happened. LinkedIn was having a meltdown. So anyway, Dr. Asha, you have a great rest of your day and a
Thank you.
fantastic weekend.
You
And I
too.
look forward to our next conversation.
Sounds good. See you next
All
time.
right. See you next time. Bye.